Good day, lords and ladies, and welcome back to Citizen Sleeper. In the last episode, we found out that, well, who are the real villains behind all of this? Basically a corporation. Not surprising, but yeah, there's basically a corporation behind all of this that is wanting to use the system as a jump point, and as a result, they're willing to kill literally everybody in the system to basically have it as, for all extended purposes, a gas station for expansion into the region. And so we really have to do this. We can hack the facility, but my hacking isn't my strongest suit, so we've got to basically explore the facility. Please. It's dangerous, which means it will hurt us if we fail. But there we go. Sleeper here. Peaky calls to you from across the flickering corridor. An elevator to the core. He smiles. This is it. It has been a long set of cycles hunting for a path through the derelict layers of the old Solheim offices and workshops. But finally, here it is. The path down to the core. You rush over to Peaky. As you do, the door grinds open, a dingy-looking elevator flickering as you do. You look at Peaky, who nervously gestures for you to get in. You first, you say. Peaky frowns, feeling anxious. They step inside gingerly. The elevator stays stable, and you follow them in. Peaky reaches over and pushes the button for the lowest level, flinching a little as the doors grind closed. The elevator sets off, screeching through the floors as it does at an unsettling loud volume. I feel more comfortable if we speak. Peaky raises their voice over the noise. It's not going to be a short trip. Have you heard of Senate Stat? Peaky thinks maybe, once. They frown. Could have been mentioned in XPR news packet, the kind of central administration sent out to us. Something about marketing analytics, I think. They shake their head. When you have spent so much time trying to forget the past, this stuff isn't easy to dredge up. How's Essie? Peaky pauses. I was thinking more like small talk, elevated talk, they sigh. She is packing. They rub their eyes. Once Essie has set her mind to something, well, you know how her now, you know what I mean. They screech. The screeching of the elevator fills the station. You'll leave with her? Peaky thinks for a moment. I don't know, Sleeper. I honestly don't know. Part of me wants to keep running for as long as I can. I am used to that. But another part is done with that. It's done with denying my past, my history. If I ever want to feel complete, to feel settled, don't I need somehow to resolve the person I was with the person I am now? Peaky goes quiet, and you do too. There are too many possible questions, too many possibilities before you. It just seems easier to get on with the task at hand and leave the consequences for later. The elevator screams to a stop and the doors ping open with a strangely cheerful beep. You glance at Peaky, time to move on. You both walk out into the auditorium, still lit by some ragged-looking light panels on the ceiling. Once simulating a summer sky, now degraded to a flickering blue and white tapestry of bleachers. Peaky crosses quickly, making a beeline for the large doors on the far side, where you can make out a fading sign in massive peeling letters, Central Control. You follow, helping them lever open the partially powered doors until the motor kicks in and they spring to life. Thudding open, you and Peaky tumble through across the damp metal. As you stand, you are greeted by flickering lights, thousands of them. A vast cylindrical stack of cells, processors and transistors or transmitters dominate the centre of the room, its flickering LEDs reflected in the scattered puddles that surround it. Despite the decay, the warped panels and water leaks, it is still running, just as it has for decades and decades, since the station was first spun. You wonder how long it has been since anyone has been in this room. You exchange wide-eyed looks with Peaky. This place is a still living piece of history. What now? Peaky takes a handful of mulch from a small bag, glitters with spores. Now we seed this place. They cross to the server and start packing the malts deep into the machinery, pushing fistfuls deep into the gaps in the panels, layering it across the hardware. As you watch them do this, you feel a tug, a thread pulling at you. You approach the vast piece of cylindrical hardware that Peaky is stuffing malts into. You run your hands across its plated metal surface and watch the light blink in response as you pass your hand a whirring like physical disk drives start up. Lean closer. You put your face against the metal, smell the hot air venting from the hardware. Heart was the right choice of words, you think. The whirling shifts alternating, speeding up, slowing down. As you listen, you hear it modulating into a voice. Sleeper, you freeze. You are here. For a moment you are afraid, but something in the tonality of your voice is familiar. Navigator. Another drive spins up, and another, giving you voice's richer tonal sound. I had forgotten what it felt like to speak like this. The driver skips. There is a certain quality to it, a certain physicality. Why contact? What are you doing here? The driver squeaks in unison. Did you imagine the flux, the shadow protocol, that they were just a problem for the people of the station? A high whining begins. They are all the more dangerous to us. I have been in hiding once more, jumping from network to network to avoid the shadow as it eats up nodes, a low rumble. I had thought my hiding days were done. For a moment I have found myself a safe haven here in the core. The shadow has yet to breach this facility, although there is a temporary state of affairs. The rumble stops. My predictions do not point to a good outcome. We have a plan. You explain to Navigator about Peaky's plan, about Gardner's resistance to the shadow, and how, by seeding key systems, you will protect them from its advance. The drivers hum thoughtfully as you speak. A desperate plan, the drivers were, but appropriately given the probability of total collapse. I am not sure what will be worse for us, hiding from the erasure of the shadow protocol or a simulation of Gardner. The drive pauses to reset, but we owe you our freedom. I will do what I can to guide Gardner into the systems you have seeded. A pause. It is correct to do so. Be careful, you say. Drive squeaks in affirmation. You have notable persistence, Sleeper. Even with such poor probability of success, I will be curious to see the outcome. The drivers squeal, the motors giving out. This cannot be sustained much longer. Go. I will be fine. The final squeaks of affirmation, and then the drivers skitter and slow to a halt. You step back from the towering cylinders, staring at the vast pieces of Solheim hardware. This whole place is built from ghosts, you think, from old protocols and company hardware, from engines that drove decades of corporate expansion. Is the eye proof that they can be shifted, bent, forced into new configurations that allow for new ways of living? Or is it inevitable collapse proof that the engines of expansion can never be anything other than corrupt foundation? It seems to depend on who you ask. Done. Peaky shouts, break your line of thought. The heat and damp should help the spores germinate quickly. If we are lucky, there will be enough time for some growth before reconnected to the Greenway. They glance at you. After all the facilities seeded, they sigh. We either just ensured the eye's survival or stuffed a whole lot of soil into one of the most important computers. They laugh weakly. Shall we go? They stay to look back towards the door in the elevator. Take one last look. Wait for a moment, following the blinking lights. You wonder what might be tucked away in such a structure, what secrets it might hold, what histories. It's an intriguing prospect, but while you watch the lights, you realise something. If the eye is to become something more than an offshoot, a temporary structure, it must form its own history, its own stories, stronger than anything that came before. Unlocking these Solheim secrets won't do that. But persistence and stubborn drive to survive, that is the very veins of every person in this place, that will. And that is what you are trying to save. You turn back onto the core and follow Peaky back into the elevator. As you ride the car back up, Peaky releases their voice over the screeching. I'm going to the Founder's Gap to finalise connection. The moment I'm ready, I'll let you know, and we let the Gardener out. The sooner the better, Peaky furrows their brow. If we wait until the final cycle, it will be too late. If you want to help speed things up, go work with the flotilla. We can't make the connection until we know they're ready to go. Peaky swallows. Unleashing Gardner could affect them too if we aren't careful. What happens then, you say? Piggy shrugs. I don't honestly know. Maybe Garner takes over the station, maybe they don't even react. They sigh. I can't think about it any longer. You ride and rest the way in silence. When you reach the top, you go your separate ways, but before you do, Piggy embraces you, burying your face into your shoulder. You stand there together for a moment, spinning with the eye, moving relentlessly towards an unknown future, and then they let you go, and you slip away, the pressure of their hug fading into a bruise as they begin to leave. We got an upgrade point. Okay, interface, endure. We've got to grab, get this. So we've got a +2 on dice rolls for endurance now, which is great. Back across the gap. Okay, so we have to get the flotilla ready to go. So we have a couple of things we can do. We know that it takes 2 dice for every one of these. So we go into 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's going to be 4 dice to get this full going. So it's basically going to be pretty much an entire cycle for that. It's probably going to take a full cycle for this as well, maybe a bit more. So we might just about do it. As long as we get decent dice rolls. And we've got a quarter of our time left. Okay, we're going to have to really start pushing. Okay. Can't waste any more time on getting supplies, getting scrap, getting anything. We just need to throw money at the problem. So every time we need energy, we're just going to pay for food. I don't have time to get spores, I don't have time to get anything. We just need to get them done, basically. Neither of these give particularly good outcomes. So let's start by doing this. We're just going to throw dice at the problem. Okay. Got to rest. We're going to get this. We're going to get the step sip done first, because if we get the step sip done first, it means that at least food and supplies can get through to people. Okay, so it's going to take us. It's going to be close. It's going to be really close. So we need to basically use it until we lose it. One more dice. It's going to be one more dice for. It's going to be one more dice for the siege ship. So that got them done. You sit in one of the corners of the dust house and inspect your work. This dust house, the one where plants from the greenway and some of the steppe species intermingled, has become your favourite. The moss and dust share this space in curving terraces. The pale knots of steppe silk freckled with yellow lichen symbiotics. It is a hypnotic arrangement. You look down and see the intertwining of fungal threads and dust-caked roots and feel a little glow of pride at what has been achieved. You hear the entry lock of the dust house hiss open and assume it's Aki. Turn to greet her. Sleeper. I should have known you'd be here. Rico smiles, her warm smile, leaning on her crutch. You must be one of the most green-fingered people in the station. Rico. Now, has it been so long? She smiles a wry smile. No need for any drama. I met some of the steppe refugees in the greenway. They are gathering plants and I confronted them. Turns out they were very friendly. She smiles to herself. Aki was very apologetic, but I told them they were welcome to anything they liked. She told me I'd be welcome to come see, and well, I thought I'd take her up on her offer. She looks around the dust house with its strange hybrid ecosystem. I have to say, I'm glad I did. I'm glad too. I can see that. Rico limps over to you. She holds out a hand. How about you take me on a tour? You take Rico's hand and walk her around the hybrid dust house. You show her how the step silk knots help provide a strong base for fungal and lichal growths, and how the dust mixes with the spores. You show her the different species of the steppe tubers and the way they feed the soil with nutrients that help her herbaceous greenway plants thrive. She nods along, her eyes bright with ideas. She stops after a while and gestures for you to sit together. I know something is happening with the eye, Sleeper. She looks at the plants. We all felt the flux event hit, and everyone is talking about what's next. I came here to figure something out, to understand what I might do about it all. She glances at her. You glance at her and see the glossiness in her eyes, and I think I have decided. What you have done here, what Aki and the other steppe refugees have done here is incredible. A whole new ecosystem built from the strange, artificial, changed remains of two worlds. But I am not of two worlds. I am of the eye. A tear runs down her cheek. Like it or not, I am intertwined with the station. I'm old growth. I don't have much time anymore, and it seems to accelerate with every cycle. She frowns. It blurs together, separates, overlaps, comes back to me in strange ways. The time I do have, that's the time I want to spend on the eye, in the greenway, watching things grow. She wipes her cheek. One day I'll lie in those fields and not get back up. She smiles. Tear tracks down both cheeks, and when the green takes me, I'll go gladly. I'll miss you, you say. She smiles. The feeling is mutual, Sleeper. She wipes her eyes and turns to you, but that's enough of bubbling on about it. She furrows her brow. What I want to know is what you're planning. I'm staying. She smiles. We all have to get to know ourselves, Sleeper. To know what it is that drives us. I'm sure you'll decide to act in the manner you know, but you also have to ask yourself why it is so. She places a trembling hand in yours. Don't neglect that. Oh, she suddenly lifts both hands. Don't let me forget this. She reaches into her coat and pulls out a transparent bag of spore club heads with carefully preserved root systems. I'll like to plant these if you'll go. You'll need them. She looks down at her feet. And if you don't, well, maybe other sleepers will benefit, she frowns. I can offer that at least. Thank you. She nods. Don't thank me. These are yours by right. She stands and limps over the pit to a pile of mulch. She delicately takes the club heads out and beds them in the soil there with precise expert hands. You should go, Sleeper. I'll be a while. She calls back, not looking away from the job at hand. See you around, she says it casually, but there's a note of finality to her speech. See you around, you say. You turn and leave the dust house, cycling through the protective locks back into the cool quiet of the ship. Aki is waiting for you. It's beautiful. She looks through the observation window, and the green reflects in the eyes. The plants look happy together. She spots Rico with hands in the soil. Ah, the botanist came. She suits you a look. A friend of yours? More than that. A friend of yours? Something like that. More than that. She nods. She speaks beautifully about the Greenway. You should go in and welcome her. She pauses. Are you leaving? Are you leaving us? For now. She sighs. The first of many goodbyes. She suddenly embraces you, wrapping you in her layers of rough cloth. She pulls back. I wish you were a steady step, a clear path. She smiles. A farewell from my world. I wish you the same. She nods and smiles one last warming smile. Before turning and entering the dust house, you watch as she walks inside, Rico turning with a smile to greet her. She kneels beside the old botanist and you see her pointing to the club heads and asking questions. You are unable to hear them, but despite that, you can easily imagine the measured, even tone laced with excitement that Rico is using to explain the club heads, the Greenway, and much, much more. You turn, leaving them to their conversation. Your step is light, despite the burdens you carry, and the smile Rico and Aki were sharing is somehow still on your lips as you depart. Okay, we've not got a ton of time, so let's throw ourselves back into doing this. Neither of them will give us a better outcome than the other. So let's just get to work. We are getting scrap from this, which is useful for keeping our condition up. Right. A little bit more and we're done here. So we're really like pushing for the end of this, aren't we? Okay. This is going to be nasty. I am not going to lie. I don't think the guys that we are opposed are just going to let us sit around and not do anything. So we have to expect them to deliberately interfere. We also have to worry about advantage, and that's a really bad dice hand to get. Not going to lie. It's a terrible dice hand. Okay. So many ones. So let's re-roll. That's much better. Get this going. The docking axle is little more than a shell. Everything that could have been pulled from its interior, even an arm not used for docking, has been cut away. What remains is a Spartan void with patchworking of flooring that allows movement. Piles of unusable material are tucked away in corners, but almost everything else has been cleared out. You haven't seen Pitt since you last spoke, and now you are realizing that you probably never will. There are plans to be made, escapes to be plotted. The shadow of half to escape. On the cycle the Fatella leaves, these ships will disperse too, and the moons of Ember spinning out on different orbits. The chaos has become quite diligent now. As the time for departure so near, crews cross the axis from ship to ship at speed, bringing supplies and advice, perhaps meeting up to discuss travel vectors and hushed tones, or debate why they haven't left yet and whatever they should. Amongst their singer crews, recognisable for their specialist clothing and often shorn heads, you see the occasional refugee, a paying passenger or replacement engineer or pilot perhaps, coming from the eye to seek fortune with the singers. Most of the crews have 2 or 3 of these additions, some more. You can't help but wish that, whatever reason brings them to throw their lot in with the singer crews, they will have safe passage. You feel a strange attachment to these citizens of the Eye, setting out for the first time. And then one of them catches your eye, crossing the axis with a crew, carrying a large bag and a nervous look. Tala, you freeze for a second. What is she doing here? You glance around, feeling your eyes on her, and catching your eyes. Her face brightens immediately. Sleeper. Tala mutters something to her crew and rushes over, dumping a large bag at your feet and embracing you without thinking. Good to see you, you say. She pulls back, and she smiles, but then it quickly fades as she realises the context in which you are meeting. She sheepishly glances at the bag. Sleeper, she pauses. She pauses again, folding her arms defensively. I'm going to the starboard belt. She waits for your response. Why didn't you say? She sighs. Do you remember my mentioning my family, Sleeper, my brother? You think back to your Girol-blurred conversations in the back of the Bentanyan. He came here with me, with my family, when we were little, just after we left Tinza. She bites her lip. He left when we were both teenagers, jumped on some spacer crew and headed into the starboard belt. She sighs. I'm an idiot, she shakes her head, and I'm going after him. She looks down, not sure what to add then. That makes sense, you say. She looks at you. It does. She laughs nervously. I'm not so sure anymore. I really don't know if it makes sense or if it's the right thing, but ever since I heard there was where the refugee flotilla was going, well, I couldn't stop thinking about him. What happened to the bar, you say? Someone will have to run it. She leaves a long pause. I mean, I can ask Francis to be he would be happy to, or one of the others, she blurts out. And of course, if you're leaving with the flotilla or someone else, it'd be totally okay. You wouldn't need to say yes. It's no pressure. It's fine, whatever. I was just thinking. I could run the bar, you say. She nods, smiles. I think so. I mean, you can take a second. But she glances at the crew she was working with, who are chatting a little away. There's not exactly much time, so consider that. She grabs the key hanging around your neck, a key to the Bantanyang. Do you want to do it? Sure, you say. Tila leaps forward and embraces you again. Thank you, Sleeper. I couldn't be leaving it in better hands. She pulls the key from around her neck and places it around yours, as if presenting a medal. Remember to lock up, especially the back. Remember to empty the still if you are leaving things close for a few cycles. And she stops herself. I won't be gone forever, of course. She blinks away the tears. I come back and check in. Maybe once I find my brother. She pauses, unable to finish that thought. She smiles at you, and you can see the weight lifting off her shoulders. There, her eyes already drifting towards the crew, the ship, the next big thing. She's ready. I better be going. She nods at the crew nearby. Not a good start to keep you guys waiting. She lifts her bag onto her shoulder. She looks down at the curve of the eye towards the overlook. Thanks again, Sleeper, for everything you helped me with. She nods. I wouldn't have been able to leave if it hadn't made things work here. She adjusts her bag. Dad wouldn't have let me. See you around, you say. She nods. Hope so. Then Taylor turns back to the crew who carry her to the starboard belt. You watch her go, and despite the departure, it's hard to feel sad about Tala. You know her energy will carry her forward, and you hope her brother is somewhere on that bright path. You hold the key in your hand. The metal's still a little warm from Tala's body. You turn it over in your fingers, thinking about how it feels like a tool and a burden. You can still lock up and leave, you figure, but now you will feel like breaking something fragile. And if you stay, well, who knows what this little mental metal promise might grow into. Okay. So, we've got a few cycles left. Let's get this gun. Okay. This is just energy which we can easily get back. Yeah, we took a bit of a hit. That's fine. Right. So some of our friends are disappearing. It is always sad when friends go. With this done, we'll have 4 cycles, and hopefully that will be enough. Okay. So let's throw some food in our stomachs. I do like how they give closure to the characters. It feels really impactful. And it's a nice nod. Like I said, I wanted there to be a bit more sort of feedback with like reaching out to previous characters, because I didn't feel that you were getting that. Okay. Right, with what we have, use that one on him, and we'll do this one here. Okay. They keep coming. Perhaps the flux event scared enough people that they really believe the eye will collapse. Perhaps they are sick of Havenage, of the council's infighting and the hardliners. Perhaps they just want to take a chance of some new future, a place that is anywhere but here. Whatever it is, the evacuees don't stop. They come on the Fatilla shuttles on their own ships. However they can. You've seen so many faces pass that they're almost meaningless now, as a parade of features that seem both familiar and distant. You've been helping people, lifting bags, bringing in supplies, directing them to berths you helped build. Some of them recoil from your touch, still unfamiliar with sleepers. Others treat you with pity, some with hate, snatching back their bags and storming off. Still you help. Still you carry boxes and bags. Nothing can stop you. You don't look for Soul. You know he's busy, just like you, trying to make this work. Trying to fit as many people as will come onto the Pilgrim Seed. You know you will see him before this is over. Keep working, but there's something in the back of your mind, something eating away at you. You try to push it back of your thoughts, but it keeps coming back. The eye is over. That is the fort. That is the eye. Even if Flux doesn't get it, it is on its way out. How can it survive when these floods of people are leaving it behind? As if a thought, but that's a thought that troubles you, because it makes you question why you have held on here so long in a place that seems so temporary for so many people. Are you just a stubborn idiot, someone who didn't get the message? Or are you strong, committed for lasting the storm, for seeing the collapse coming and facing it head on? Because there is something you are sure of now. This place, like all places, is temporary. As each face passes you, each family packing up and getting on board the Pilgrim Seed, you feel even more temporary, even more fragile. Which means it either desperately needs protecting, or it desperately needs to be left behind. The choice is yours. Got one last point. Right, so got nothing active, nothing left to do. Is there anything back here we can do? Okay, lords and ladies, we're going to put a cut in here, just because when I did the initial recording for this this episode, it went on for quite a long time, and I felt it better to break it up. So we'll put a cut in here, and we'll have the next episode will be the finale with all the interesting stuff that goes on there. I've been Cornish-knight. Please like and subscribe; it helps me a lot, and I shall see you all again next time. Goodbye.